Welcome into another GM All Access powered by Teamworks. We've talked about this a little bit on our own on the show. We felt like we might need to bring in an expert in the expertise of the space. National scout for On3. I mean, best head of hair in the company. Overall, we went to the sidebar in this intro, went to the personnel symposium in Nashville. People were asking if he was running the whole event. That's how well-liked, how well-known he is in the industry. Cody Bellaire, again, national scout for On3. Dude, so juiced to talk some ball with you, man. Thanks for jumping on.
I'm fired up to be here, JD. That was a hell of an intro. That might be the best lead-in I've had in some time. So I appreciate you. But, I mean, dude, I'm excited to talk personal. Anytime we can get on and just talk about the business in the industry and talk about what's going on in this world, I love it. But if I also get to talk to JD PicKell, I don't know if it gets better than that, man. So let's get into it.
Well, with that intro for myself, by the way, I appreciate that. We're texting a little bit before this. It's such a new world of college football with NIL and revenue sharing potentially and the transfer portal and the way people are putting rosters together. Like, if you're a general manager right now in college football, what are a couple of things that are top of mind for you and kind of where you see this whole thing headed?
Yeah, I think it starts with obviously like roster accumulation and player acquisition. That's sort of the name of the game, right? But the question is how do you do it? I think ultimately what teams have to sort of decide here are how are we going to attack one, high school, two, portal. And I think it's always been in that order since the beginning of personnel and college football world. We've always focused on high school first, portal edition second. Obviously, with the addition of NIL and the portal opening up in these two windows, the portal's gained some steam, but sort of kind of what we were talking about off camera, JD, was like, if you don't almost split this sucker like 50-50, you're kind of working behind the eight ball. So I think the thing that teams are really trying to focus on now more than ever is emphasizing the high school prospects that you do sign. We need them to play now. The game of raw developmental upside, that's kind of going away here, especially if you're one of the top teams in the country, you're a top tier P4 team for sure. You're not signing a freshman and saying, yeah, man, we'll see you down the road in year 3. That doesn't exist anymore, JD. So I think you have to have an understanding of your roster and saying, okay, is this freshman that we're bringing in, do we expect him to play year 1, year 2, or down the line? And if it's down the line, it might be someone that we say, hey, let's kick the tires on him and let's explore the portal a little bit, see if we can find an upgrade there. Or do we just say, hey, let's only sign 8 to 10 high school kids instead of 15 to 20, and then let's pick up the pieces in the portal.
And it's so crazy because what you're speaking to with, hey, we might kick the tires on this kid a little bit later down the road. You might kick the tires on that kid when he jumps in the portal, inevitably, it seems like, for a lot of these top prospects with the way this whole thing is shaking out. So I want to get back to that in a second. Before we do, though, GM All Access, not only powered by Cody Bellaire, also powered by Teamworks. With revenue sharing era with Teamworks general manager, purpose-built for collegiate athletics, make sure you win the revenue sharing era. Trusted by 99% of D1 NCAA institutions, Teamworks is uniquely designed by those who understand the challenges of college athletics, strategically allocate resources, optimize investments, evaluate your roster, and build championship-caliber teams all on one integrated platform. Check out teamworks.com/general-manager to learn more. And we're learning more right now as well, along with Cody Bellaire, who's been, I showed you this in your intro too, been in multiple personnel departments from the Big 12 to the SEC. So, I mean, you're really seeing behind the curtain in a lot of these different, buildings. When you speak to the general manager position, we talked about this at one point, it's a role that seems like it's evolving in a lot of ways. Break that down for the people at home as to what a general manager is doing right now in college football.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the thing that's so funny about the GM position, and you talk about director of player personnel positions alone, right? They didn't even exist really like 20 years ago, 15 years ago is really when you started seeing these guys transition to the college game, because it used to just be a position in the NFL. But now we're in the college game here, and you have a ton of off-field positions like GM, director of player personnel, director of scouting, director of high school relations. There's all these puzzle pieces off the field in these support staff positions that now make up the scouting side of these buildings. And so the GM position, I would say, even in the last 5 years or so, in this transfer portal world that we exist in now, the NIL world that we exist in now, GMs aren't being asked to just look over the roster, sign high school prospects, and move on to the next class. That's not what it is. These guys are on 24/7. The clock never stops with these cats. So GMs now, especially during this time period in the spring portal, they're looking at the current roster and saying, okay, is there any holes in this roster that we have that we can go find in the portal? 2, is our team prepared to go into fall workouts and attack the season? We're past December period. We're in the spring portal now. You know what your team is sort of looking like going into summer. The spring gave you a great window and a peek into the future and saying like, okay, guys, if we had to go field and go play a game right now, what do we look like? All these GMs are dotting I's, crossing T's, saying, yes, that position group looks good. This position group looks good. And essentially that's what this spring portal could really do for some of these for most of these teams. Is going to be filling in holes. But then you have some teams that are sitting on a little bit of change. You know, they had some guys move around and maybe some people leave. You know, Tennessee maybe has a quarterback leave or something, and they say, hey, we got some money to throw around. Let's go see who's willing to jump in here and, you know, take a swing at some of these big college football prospects. So I think what GMs are being asked to do, especially right now, are be much more involved in the spring portal hunt than they ever have been before.
It's interesting you say that, because as the spring portal seems to evolve, just what you said, you get a couple of those high-profile names that jump into that second portal cycle, but a lot more often it's, you know, pieces that you're trying to maybe fit into the puzzle to finish off your roster. So the way that I'm thinking about that, okay, if I'm a GM, I better be a good evaluator. Like, it feels like that's going to become a more and more important part of this job. Speaking to teams that you think could maybe dip their toe into the spring portal, who are some of the guys in the GM world where you're like, hey, if this guy takes a player that maybe we haven't heard of before, trust him because he's a sicko evaluator?
Yeah, I think especially when we're talking portal, right, that's where these NFL guys that have been brought in are going to really make an impact, right? So that's Jim Nagy at Oklahoma, right? And his staff, you know, he brought an assistant as well, Taylor Redd, who comes from the NFL lineage as well. He's their assistant GM over there, And they've already shown their teeth early. They get guys like Jay Knott, Jake Michla. They understand they're in a win now mode coming off the year. So they had, I think you'll continue to see more of their guys in this period. They sort of bring some names in here. They may not be the sexiest names that hit the portal, but they're guys that they've identified to build depth on this roster. I think you look at North Carolina, same sort of deal. Michael Lombardi, obviously coming in with a ton of NFL experience, but it's not just Lombardi that they brought in. They brought in 3 other personnel staffers with NFL experience, including Joe Anile, who has some serious NFL pedigree. His uncle is one of the most legendary personnel figures in the NFL. So they aren't there to just hang out. They're there to bring in talent via the portal. So I would expect them to be active as well. And one of the other names I'm really excited to see that I haven't really heard a ton of people talk about up to this point, Andrew Luck. Have we all forgot that Andrew Luck's the GM at Stanford? I mean, that's a team that has lost some serious pieces this transfer portal and in the December cycle. They have to bring in some talent there. And I think not only are they going to bring in names, they may not be the sexiest names you've ever heard of. Okay, they may not be just a ton of high-profile 5-star guys, but you're going to figure out what the Stanford football team that Andrew Luck wants to build this summer. Like that, they're going to bring in and they're going to bring in players that you're going to be like, oh, that's the identity that we kind of register with Andrew Luck, those teams that he was a part of. I think they might kick somebody's ass. Like, I think they're going to surprise some people, and they might kick some ass this fall. They have to fill a lot of holes, JD. But, I mean, would you be surprised if Andrew Luck trotted a team out there that was just going to punch some people in the mouth?
In terms of, like, his background, you think about those Stanford teams that he was a part of. You think about what he was as a Stanford quarterback, the highlight of him knocking some dude's block off and forcing a fumble as a quarterback after I think he had just thrown an interception.
Correct.
He might have the highest ACT score unofficially of all the GMs in college football. There's probably some 33s in there. I don't know what Andrew Luck scored, but I'm going to go ahead and guess it was probably a pretty top tier if he got into Stanford. I think you make a great point, man. Like, what he is as a GM at Stanford, already seeing his fingerprints on this roster. I'm really excited to see what they are, because if they get back to that kind of Jim Harbaugh smash mouth operation out there on the farm, that'd be a lot of fun, dude. I'd be here for that. I want to get your take on this though, because Stanford obviously in the Pac-10 previously, another previous Pac-10 school, Pac-12, rest in peace, miss you every day. Chad Bowden at USC, man. I feel like there's a ton of noise around what he's done, a ton of noise around him choosing USC when he was already at Notre Dame, was a national title contender a year ago. What do you make of him and what he's done so far out there in Los Angeles?
Yeah, the thing with Chad, I think a lot of people in this industry respect about Chad is that he's got juice. There's no lack of juice from Chad Bowden. And I mean, he's somebody that excels in the organization and execution of the operation. This is a guy that does great with relationships. He's really good about understanding the operation and what USC needs to do, right? This is one of these deals where they're sort of in a similar situation to Oklahoma, where I think you would say the coach's seat is getting a little bit hot, and they're in a world where they need to sort of win now. And Chad was brought in for a reason, right? It's to get the roster right. And he did a really good job bringing strong people on his side of the deal, right? He brought in someone like Max Steinecker from Wisconsin, who's one of the top young guns in the industry, who does an awesome job in the evaluation game. And that's something that Chad Bowden can recognize. And that's what I think makes him such a strong general manager. He understands that he can't do it by himself, and that he knows his strengths, he knows his weaknesses. And Max Steinecker is one of the best evaluators in the industry. Let him take care of that side of things. Chad will take care of the recruiting, roster management, the overseeing of the operation, and they're going to get to work, man. I would not be surprised if they made some moves here in the spring, but that USC football team, they're going to bring in some football players now, and they're going to be from the West Coast, which I think Chad's done an excellent job of. I think early on in this process is he said, oh, no, these West Coast kids, these Cali folks going to Bama and the SEC, like, we're not letting that happen over here, which it never should have in the first place. So he's doing a good job, and I think he's got the ship going the right direction.
I'm so glad you said that at the end, speaking to keeping talent in Southern California home. And maybe I'm biased being from Orange County, California, but I'm seeing Emeka Egbuka playing for Ohio State. I'm seeing CJ Stroud at Ohio State. I'm seeing all these guys from like the Southern California area. I'm like, dude, USC, Bryce Young goes to Alabama. I'm like, and that's just the quarterbacks for the most part. I know I mentioned Egbuka's receiver,
JD,
but
Chuck
come on.
McDonald and Zabian Brown are starting at corner at Bama. What are we talking about?
In their backyard. I mean, two modern-day guys. Like, what are we doing here? So if USC, I'm with you, man. If Chad Bowden can put the fence around USC in Los Angeles and keep top talent home, like, I think they could get that thing humming pretty quickly. One last question for you, Cody. You mentioned the NFL guys and how they are maybe finding more of a role in college football with how this thing is starting to resemble more and more of the Sunday game. We've already seen it. Notre Dame goes and grabs a guy from the NFL level to be their GM. Michael Lombardi from North Carolina, Jim Nagy in the NFL world of sorts. Do you see this being a trend more and more consistently where you see teams, potentially take the Notre Dame route and go grab a Mike Martin from the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I think it's tricky, JD. I will say that, because the biggest key difference that I think the general public needs to understand with NFL personnel guys is the evaluation of the sport, right? When you're talking about evaluating and understanding and watching film, if you have not done it at the college level and watched high school prospects, it's almost like watching a different sport compared to the NFL. And I think that's something that people sort of say, oh, well, he's seen NFL talent at the highest level, and obviously he should be able to go to college and watch a high school kid and understand that this kid should be able to project to the next level. Like, no, it's a completely different game. When you're an NFL evaluator, you are watching 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. These are guys that are past puberty, right? Like, these are adults, and you're projecting them. The athlete's probably not going to change from the college game to the NFL game. You're more picking out guys that fit your scheme, that we say, hey, do we have a need here? That's where those guys win. When you're watching a 16, 17-year-old kid, you have kids that haven't hit puberty yet. You have kids that are still growing into their frames. You have guys like, what was his name at Texas? The defense, Tavondre Sweat.
Oof.
Do you know what Tavondre Sweat weighed out of high school?
Not 400.
It was like 255 pounds.
Jeez Louise.
He put on 100 pounds in college. There's no one that just simply projects that. And so I think the biggest misunderstanding that people have when you look at these NFL guys and say like, oh yeah, they're going to walk in, they're going to understand how to evaluate all that stuff. Evaluating high school ball to college is completely different than college to NFL. So I do think you have people that are in places right now in college football that have been there for years that have a leg up on some of these NFL guys when it comes to high school evaluation.
Interesting.
But the advantage that NFL guys are going to have is they know what NFL dudes look like. So in the portal, they will see traits, they will see plays, and they will say, hey, I think we know what that's going to look like for us, and they will do a much better and much more efficient job of identifying college prospects that they think can fit their current scheme at the college level. And so I think that's a big distinction. So I think you're going to have administrators that are sort of, I would almost say handcuffed, because you can lean one way and say, hey, we're going to go bring an NFL guy with NFL experience. You need to build your team a certain way if you're going to depend on these guys. Or you go the heavy college experience route and say, hey, we're going to build our team this way. And so to me, the biggest difference in the NFL guys versus guys with a ton of college experience is one really knows how to understand the high school recruiting game, and the other one understands the transfer portal game. Ideally, you have someone that can do both. But those guys make a ton of money, and there's only so many of them that work in this industry. So it's sort of a yin and yang, man. You gotta figure it out. Ideally, everyone would hire, James Blanchard or Mark Pantoni or Austin Thomas, but those guys don't grow on trees.
Yeah, and I mean, based on the buzz over on the On3 socials, of course, the last few months, a lot of people tried to hire James Blanchard. So, I mean, the value on that position in college football only continuing to improve and grow, and excited to see how this whole thing develops. Hey, Cody, appreciate you making time, man, to just jump on here, make us all smarter about the portal and the GM position, and just the future of college football, man. We appreciate the heck out of you.
I appreciate you, JD. Thanks for having me, man.